Today I'll be showing something I've actually shown before, which is where you have some salespeople and some wages, and I want to update the wages based on a condition. So I don't want to add a new calculated column which takes the original column and does something to it. Like, say any person who earns less than 20,000, they get a raise. I don't want to add that as a new column because then you have to add the new column and delete the original column and change the name of the new column and change the position, and that's way too many steps for me. Instead, I want to alter the original column. But for illustration purposes, I'm going to add a new column just to show it, and this is just going to be equal to the wage column. I want two different conditions. I want one condition to be based on the wage itself. Like I said, if they make less than 20,000, they get a raise. And I also want to show that the condition you use to change the row doesn't have to come from the column itself. It can be from another column. Like say I want to give Denji a raise specifically. Now I have two new columns, and I'm again just doing it for illustration purposes so we can always see what the original value is. So for my first column, I want to say that if the value is less than 20,000, then I want to change it. And it's easier to go and do the transform step and then manipulate the M code than having to write it yourself. So I'll just say I want to replace 1 with 2. And then you can see it changed the type, which is super annoying. But it's not the end of the world. So I'm just going to add line breaks to make it easier to see, and then I'll go through the logic. So if we start from the bottom, it's saying this is the column I want to change, and this is a list, but this is if you want to, like I showed in another video where I had to change all the nulls in many columns. So here you could pass in a list of all the columns you want to change, but I only want to change one. And then I have replace or replace value, and this could also be replace or replace text if it's letters, like in the salesperson column. But you don't have to mess with this. And then as always, this is a table I'm acting upon, and this is the value I want to look for. And if I find that value, I want to replace it with this. But I want to do something for each row, which is why I need the magic keyword each. So now I'm saying for each row within my added custom one table, I want to do a lookup for a certain value. And I'm acting upon this column, and that will be the key for the next condition. Or when I want to change the values of a column based on another column. So right now I want to say, what am I looking for? I'm looking for the value that is inside the current row in this column, and I need to do that. And since I have spaces, I need my hashtag quotation mark, even though it's inside the curly brackets. So now it's just saying, hey, take the entire value of the cell and replace it with 2, which is obviously not what I want. But again, because I'm looking in the value of the current row, I want to say now, this is the value I'm looking for, which is just the entire value. And then I'm saying, if that value is, so if the value of the current row of this column is less than 20,000, then I want to replace this value, the current row in this column, with that multiplied by 1.2. So everyone who makes less than 20,000 would get an increase of 20%. And if this condition isn't met, so if you earn more than 20,000, then I just want to return the original. So now I can see that this number is different from this. These two are the same, and these 3 are increases. And I don't know why it changes the type, which is annoying because, well, right now I multiplied by a number, so I could potentially have more decimals if I just added a bunch like this. So now I would have multiple decimals. But again, it's not really a big problem in this situation, but it could be a problem if it really matters how many decimals you have. But then you'd need to just add a new step. So that might be slower performance. I don't know exactly. I've never needed to test that. But this is the simple condition where you change the value of the column that you're also looking through. So again, this is the column I'm changing, and this is the column that I'm looking at. But if I want to change a column based on a condition found in another column, because I'm using the each word and I have access to basically row context, that means I can grab the value for the same row in another column, which is exactly what I'm going to do. But as before, I'm going to start out by using replace values to get a helper. And I personally like to have these two arguments on the same row and the table up here, because what really matters is these two lines. So once again, the value that I'm looking for is still the value in the current row, but now it's not based on current wage, it's based on salesperson, because I want to give Denji a raise. So again, I haven't added my condition, which means I'm simply saying take the current value in my current row in this column and replace that by 2. So again, that's not exactly what I want. I want to say that each, if the value of the current row in the salesperson column, if that value is equal to Denji, then I want to give him a raise. And then because I'm lazy, I'm just going to take that from there. For each row, I want to say if the salesperson column for that row is equal to Denji, then give him a raise. Otherwise, I want the same thing. So this is because I am acting on the wrong column, and that's because I'm being silly and I'm not acting on the original weight column, which is what I need to do. So now Asa still earns her original money, and Kobeni earns her original money, and everyone else, but Denji has gotten a raise. So actually I don't need to say wage, I should say that it's the original value of the given column, because that's what I did in the other case, because I'm assuming that in a real world scenario you wouldn't add a new column, because that's exactly what I want to avoid, like this. So now if I wanted to, I could just delete these 2 extra columns and act directly on the wage column. But again, I wanted to add these for illustration purposes. So you can see that here Denji has gotten his raise, no one else has gotten a raise. And in this condition, everyone who earns less than 20,000 got a raise. And like I mentioned, if you wanted to do this the original way without manipulating the M code, what you'd have to do is to say, take this condition, which we'll just do that. So now it's only Denji who gets a raise. So I could call that a new wage. And say if the salesperson is equal to Denji, blah, 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 blah. And then because I want to act on the wage column, I should remove this. Now I have my new column, and then I could say currency type. That's fine. And then I would have to delete that row, and I would then have to rename this, because you can't rename it in one go, because I can't have 2 columns with the same name. So now I have 4 steps in order to replace a value in a column. So adding the new column, deleting the original column, renaming the new column, and changing the position, whereas I could just replace the value. And I don't know if there's performance differences, because this one is checking each value potentially twice, whereas this is then adding a new column which does the same check. So I would assume that replacing is faster because I'm not doing all of these things, but honestly I don't know. And I think any speed loss would be okay, considering you can remove 3 steps. So that was everything I had. Yep.